All right, welcome back to another episode of the How to Attract Customers podcast. Today, I am joined with the world famous Mohamed Khan, amazing real estate agent. You've sold multi-million dollar properties. You went from a single sole agent to mega agent to wholesaler to now business wholesaler. Welcome to the show, Mohamed.
Thank you, Tony, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, we all start somewhere. And I remember you telling me the story that you started off as a chef. And what got you into real estate?
I was looking for a change, and I said if I can do anything, it would probably be real estate. Because one thing I never got bored of was going on Zillow and looking at houses. And I was like, well, can't see myself getting bored of this. Let me give it a try. I had no idea whether or not I would be successful, but I think I had a goal or a fantasy of wanting to be a real estate investor. So I was like, that sounds like a good industry, and I know a lot of people become successful with real estate.
Nice. And if, when you first started, what was that one thing that like helped you kick off your business? How did you become, because now you're like a mega agent. So what's that one thing that kicked off your business?
I would say finding the right training, honestly, because had I found the wrong company or went for, 100% commission split and wasn't surrounding myself with great people, I would not have turned out a success. I probably would have been like a statistic like every other agent with a super high failure rate. Because it is hard once you take your real estate license and you go to school. They teach you core law.
Mhm.
That's it. You pass a core law test, and then you come out. You have no idea how to sell real estate. But a lot of agents think that they know what to do, and they truly don't. So I think it was getting lucky enough to choose the right company. And actually, I came from a cold call. I had interviewed 2 or 3 people right after I got my license, and someone I think had gotten my information that I had just taken the test or graduated. So they cold called me, and it was a local office, and I got lucky to receive that cold call.
Nice, nice, nice. So you came from a recruiting cold call.
Yeah.
So is calling a big part of your business now as an agent?
I would say it's what works. It's paramount. Making connections and communicating with people and helping people is the best way to reap the benefits. I know there's a lot of other sources, online marketing, but in the beginning, cold calling is the least expensive, most effective way to generate leads.
Nice, nice, nice. And when did you get licensed? What was your year you got licensed?
It was 2015.
2015. And what production have you done since?
I've done
Total.
probably like 150 million in real estate sales. I had a team of 29 at one point and multiple businesses, but it had grown pretty large at a certain point.
Yeah, I remember you but growing pretty large with your team. So 150 million. Was majority of that you doing solo deals or was majority of that you with the team? Talk about that.
Yeah, so that's specifically sales within real estate. I believe it was over 500 transactions.
Jeez.
And I started, I think my first year, came out of the gate running pretty hard. And I believe I did 52 transactions my first year.
So did you have some kind of secret weapon or was there some kind of like fallacy of like an easy button for you to get? Because like 150 million in transactions is not easy. That definitely takes a special individual. But what was that easy button or what do you feel like got you? I shouldn't even say what was that easy button because it's prompted you to say there is an easy button. But what was that one thing you did that made you like, boom, this was that thing I had to do every day.
It was nothing more than pure grit, to be honest with you.
Love it.
And it was just pounding the phones every day and having successful habits. Every day I would be on the phone at 8 o'clock sharp, not 8:01, at 8:03, 8 o'clock sharp. So I was creating discipline and successful habits. And then when I eventually started growing a team, I taught my discipline to all my team members, and they had to be on the dialer doing the same exact thing I did at the same exact time. And there was really no excuse for any sort of mediocrity. They all had to do the same habits that got me successful. I just multiplied it through other people.
Got you. Because I feel like today agents fail because they're not willing to do what they should do. And I feel like that's why you were successful is because you were willing to do what you should have done. Like, and you actually fell through with that. Like you went through with it. And I think that's where agents in today's market, they feel like the glitz and the glam of the TikTok, let me post a cute reel. Let me go do a video walkthrough tour. It's just supposed to bring in business, but that's not really creating connection. Would you It's just like putting yourself out there like, hey, I'm this agent that goes out and looks at new construction all day, and look at me, I drive a nice Porsche, yada yada yada. But they don't realize what the true grit is. And it's funny because I interview a lot of agents, and every agent has the same thing. It's doing what other people are not willing to do. Now, did you go straight from like your chef's career to real estate? Did you like work both at the same time? What did that look like?
No, I just ripped the Band-Aid off, I burned the bridges, and I just jumped straight into real estate, and I just joined the team immediately. I wasn't focusing on the money because I remember I paid, over $100,000 for culinary school, and it took me 6 years of school to, and then when I graduated, I still started at the bottom as like basically a prep cook, making $10 an hour out with a 4-year degree and 6 years of schooling. So who was I to think that I can take a 2-week course, come out and just be a real estate tycoon? I immediately joined a team. I had a coach, and I was giving Keller Williams 36%. I was giving the coach 10%, and I was giving the team 50%. So my first 6 months, I think I made 100 grand, and I took home maybe $30,000, which was below minimum wage. But I learned the successful habits of successful agents, and because I learned that, that's what ended up causing me to do 52 transactions the next year.
So you didn't make 30 grand, you like 10x your investment. Like
Yeah.
that's worth more than the money you were going to make or get paid.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's where agents really mess up right now. They think that you just go out and buy leads. They think they just go out and buy their way to success. And what it does is it doesn't teach them good, successful habits.
Yep.
I remember when I started out, Milton James, and actually you were one of my mentors of like cold calling, prescribing. And I came from this theory of you don't have to pick up the phone and call, and I still kind of feel that way. But you do have to make the same amount of contacts a day.
Yep.
So I looked for ways that were different as far as, finding customers. I was posting on Craigslist, freaking, I had 20 emails set up for the Craigslist posting. They could provide me with 60 posts a day.
Yep.
And that turned into 3 or 4 or 5 phone calls a day. So like when you were calling, how many dials would it take you, or how many conversations would you have to book an appointment?
In the beginning, I sucked, so it was 300 to 1. And then as I got really good, like peaked, it would be 60 contacts to 1 appointment.
60 contacts for one appointment. That's impressive. And that was the kind of same numbers I was seeing. I was just doing it in a different way. So I think, and let me know if you agree or disagree. It's not about the action you're doing. It's about the result at the end of the day of like, at the end of the day, am I still gonna get my 60 contacts?
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're cold calling, if you're posting every day. I don't know if you've seen the new strategy of going on TikTok, because now, have you seen all these realtors going out there now and they're posting out these big bougie videos? And
Yeah. I look at their numbers and they don't do any sales.
you look at the numbers, they don't do any sales, right? But what's really funny to me is I'm like, as an agent, I'm like, you are making this so easy for me.
Yeah.
Because now all I have to do is go look at your comments and DM everybody who's commenting on your post. And I have to show them more value than you.
Yeah.
Because what that person who's posting that is, to me, can tend to be a little ego driven, which rightfully so. They just shot this crazy killer video, just like with me when I do these podcasts. I'm like, how many stats do I got? What do my stats look like? But a lot of times I find that those agents aren't even following up on their views or their comments. They're doing it for vanity.
Oh yeah. I got to say this, in the beginning, a lot of agents get mad because they expect their family members to go use them as their agent because they have a license. And I can't tell you the amount of people I cold call. And then afterwards, their brother, sister, mom would show up at the closing table and say, hey, I have a real estate license. It's my, sibling. Can I have half the commission? And a lot of the times, like, they never picked up the phone and called. They just sat around and did nothing. They showed no value to them whatsoever. They didn't help them through the process, and they felt entitled because they had a real estate license. So I gotta say that even if you have a whole bunch of family in real estate, you get your license, no one's gonna use you.
Yep.
Because unless you have a proven track record of your own, you want the doctor who's done 50 surgeries to do heart surgery on you, or do you want the doctor who is just starting out?
One of my business partners, we have a slide that we put up on some of our webinars, and it's a picture of him holding a sign that says, heart surgery is $50 on sale now. Like, is that the
Yeah.
heart surgeon you want? No, it's not. And that to me, you know, last year, and I just openly publicly admitted this a while back, but I lost $100,000 last year in real estate transactions. Why? Because I simply didn't follow up.
Yep.
All my past customers, all my past clients, I thought my best friend, the best man, my best man at my wedding
Yeah.
didn't even use me. And I had sold him 4 properties prior. Why?
You didn't call him. You didn't follow up. Someone else followed up. Timing is everything.
Yep, I didn't call him, didn't follow up. My neighbors, it's just wild how people are nowadays, and you have to stay front and center, have to nurture that relationship. I feel like that's where people are really failing right now.
Yep.
And so how do you right now nurture your relationships? Because $150 million in transactions, how many of your transactions that you do are repeat customers?
I got to say that I could have done a much better job with repeat customers. I think it was one of my biggest faults was not calling people. I got in the habit of always chasing new business and not spending enough time nurturing all the people that already knew me, liked me, and trusted me. So I got to say that was a regret for me.
Mhm.
I did get a lot of referrals, throughout the years, but I could have done client appreciation parties. I could have quarterly stayed in touch with people, and I probably would have done better.
Yeah, and that's a very common theme I'm seeing with mega agents like yourself is people are just so focused on getting the new business. They're not nurturing the current business they have. Even with myself, now I'm nurturing like crazy. But I think that's the biggest money making activity, especially in the economy that we're in, that you could be having.
Yeah.
Because right now we're in a huge lack of trust economy right now.
Yeah.
People are not trusting other people, and people are doubling down on the people that are in their sphere or let's say a seller, if you're in front of that seller, they're not even gonna question how much you wanna charge. I went on a listing appointment the other day, and the seller was like, "Hey, how much are you charging me?" I was like, "Well, I charge 6% total, that way I can give the other side 3%." They're like, "Okay, as long as it gets sold."
Yeah.
And my question to that, my response to that was, "As long as it's sold." I said, "Well, I'll caveat that with as long as we list it for appropriate pricing." And then that opened the conversation to, okay, what does that look like? Why is it appropriate? A lot of people, I feel like when they're trying to work with their customers, they just want to be yes people.
Yeah.
And I flat out told him, I said, he wanted to list for, I think it was like 675. I was like, honestly, today's market, your house is only worth 600.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he kept going back and forth. I said, here's the thing. You could go out and find another agent that will list for 675 because you will,
Mhm.
but it will wind up sitting. You'll wind up getting frustrated and we'll end up having another conversation in 6
Yeah.
months. Are you seeing that kind of talk track right now with some of your listings you're taking appointments you're going on?
The expectations are definitely lower, and I don't think it's because of necessarily pricing. I think it's more or less just demand is very low right now. So the bigger expectation is days on market are going to be very high,
Yeah. Yeah. And what are you seeing right now in the Orlando market?
probably 120 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We went from 2 weeks to 120 days, so very different.
I is wild because I was just 2 years ago we were just like over ask, over ask, over ask. So what are the activities? What are you doing now in your business to generate more deals? What are those day-to-day activities? What are you doing at 8 a.m. nowadays?
My business has evolved so much that I got to a point actually where I was able to retire in 5 years and ended up taking 2 years off and, ended up closing down the real estate sales side of it in terms of the team and focused on health and family. And, my family life went from a 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. My health went from probably a 2 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. And everything just got overall better. My priorities changed as a human being
Yeah.
because I worked so much. And I want to say I got lucky because the market went parabolic in 2022. And, money was flowing in at a very rapid rate. I made the right investments over time. I bought at the right times and I had enough assets at that time to support me for a long time. So things have changed, and now what am I doing at 8 o'clock? I'm just having breakfast with the wife. I go to the gym in the morning. I come home. I have breakfast with the wife. We walk our kids to school, so I get to see my kids every morning off to school, and come home, putz around till about 9:30. Get to the office at 10. But I'm at the stage right now where I have leverage, so calls are getting made all day long.
Skull is looking made.
We're still doing over 1,000 calls a day, and we're sending out about an offer a day right now. And right now we're we basically have a commercial real estate acquisitions company. So I know I'm kind of fast forwarding
Yeah.
quite a bit, but the life is different now because I can afford leverage.
Nice, nice, nice. So you went from single agent, crushing it, grit, making your calls every day, to having a mega team. What was that transition like, or what was that defining moment in your career where you switched from solo to mega team? What was that aha, that epiphany, that
You know, the truth is, I just followed the book. I followed the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book.
MREA?
Yes, and it was preached very hard at Keller Williams. You know, I was totally engulfed in the culture. You know, we went to Bold and all the classes you could possibly take. I read the book 6 times my first year, and all I wanted to do was be a millionaire real estate agent. So they said hire your assistant, and your business should double. So once I was doing three, 3 to 4 closings a month consistently on my own, I hired my first assistant. And then once I started doing 4 to 6, I hired a transaction coordinator. And then once I was doing 4 to 6, I brought on a buyer's agent and then kind of grew it from there. But one thing I got to say is now looking back at it, a real estate team honestly is not always profitable, especially when you're in growth mode. And a real estate team, in my opinion, is not an actual business that is very sellable. And I know a lot of people may think otherwise, but usually when people come on your team, they get trained up. They'll start closing deals on their own, and they'll eventually leave you. So you have to know it as a team leader that no one's going to stay forever.
So I want to get your opinion on this because, I was a former team owner myself, and I actually, going into building my team, I took it from the mindset is whenever I interviewed an agent, let's say I'm interviewing you right now.
Yep.
I'd say, Mohamed, what are your goals? You'd say, I want to do $3 million a year. I say, okay, great. But here's the fact of the matter. There is going to come a day where you lead my team.
Yep.
Okay. My job as your team leader is to make sure you feel confident enough to lead that team.
Yep.
Because what I want to do is make sure that when you leave, you help me find your replacement.
Yep.
How does that sound? And I set those expectations and goals up front. For me, when I noticed my team members would get to that $3-4 million mark, I would not force them out, but I would say, hey, you're at that $3 million mark. Where are you at? Did you ever, when you had your team and growth, because I saw your team grow, heck, I recruited your whole team to ERA
Yep.
real estate. Did you ever negotiate that of like, hey, you're probably going to be on here for a little bit of period of time, or were you trying to just retain everybody on your team for the life of your team?
My goal was to help people as much as I possibly could. But the truth is, the 80/20 rule is real and it exists in every business and every industry. And 80% of my team was still really not producing. And the ones that were producing the least sucked up the most time, to be honest with you. And the ones that were producing were not sucking up the most time. So the truth is, we had 29 people on our team at one point. Do you remember? I remember walking into the office and filling the whole damn office up with my team. And we ended up going down to 5 agents from probably 16 because we had a whole bunch of VAs too that made up the team and admin staff. And with one admin, one TC, and 4 to 5 agents, we were consistently closing 20 deals a month. And it required literally an hour a week for me at that point. And I would just go in a team meeting, and my admin was running the company, and my 4 to 5 agents were killing it. And then one of the agents ended up running team meeting too, and I literally spoke for 15 minutes a week, and that was the extent of it. So sometimes less is more, but you have to get to a place where you find those quality people. And that took me not being profitable and growing and growing and growing until I found the ones that were the best culture, the best fit. And that was what ended up um, becoming easy and being successful.
Gotcha. So going back to the MREA though, you mentioned, you followed that model. You waited till you're doing 3 or 4 transactions a month. You hired your first assistant. Did you hire stateside or overseas for that?
For the assistants were all local Floridian people. And the VAs, the cold callers, I've tried everything. I've tried people from Egypt, from the Philippines, from India, from Costa Rica, from Colombia, and I think Nicaragua too.
Yeah.
So we've done it all. Guyana as well.
Okay, as well.
Yeah.
What was the best? Okay, so I have to ask.
Yeah.
What was the best cold caller experience for hiring?
So here's the funny part. It ended up being the same statistics where the people that actually sucked but that would show up and dial consistently, that had no talent whatsoever, the ones that were showing up at the same time every day with the most dials, those ones that actually got most appointment. The ones that disappointed me the most are the ones that were, I thought, going to be the most successful. The smooth talkers, the ones that could handle objections well. It was pure grit that won.
Yeah, it's and that's where people think success is luck, and it's not. It's all about grit. It's all about action. I live by the mantra of success is a decision.
Yeah.
You could decide to put in the work, you could decide to put in the grit, or you could decide to not and try to buy your way to success, which is only you're going to have mediocre results
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So, all right. So now when you fast forward, if you only ask like, what was the pay range? What were you looking at? Because I'm trying to give the listeners like, okay, how much I want to hire an assistant. I'm doing 3 to 4 transactions right now. How much should I look at investing into that first assistant to get me to double my business?
I made the mistake of hiring inexpensive people, and I made the mistake of also hiring too fast and firing too slow. And it was through education and failing and going through 4 admins the first year that I started reading books, taking classes on how to hire people, and got really good at it. And I ended up going through over 130 resumes, interviewing 10 people. And I spent 2 weeks of my life on pause, taking away from all my sales and all my follow-ups and all my cold calls. And all I did was focus on hiring one person. And that person ended up being with me for 5 years.
Wow. And didn't I remember there being a story? Didn't you help her get into her first home?
I did, yes. So she bought her first home with us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So what were your, because I know for the viewers, what were your splits like?
It was 50-50.
50-50? Okay. Okay. But I knew, knowing your business background, it was definitely well worth.
Yeah, it was worth the time. But the biggest pleasure I got out of having the team is watching all the people today that are successful, that have left the team, and watching all the people that have grown and their habits are still of what they learned, just like my habits were still of what I learned to be successful. And I had lunch with a couple of them last week, and just the praise that they gave and watching them shine and being successful and them leading other people now and inspiring other people, that made the whole entire thing worth it, not the money.
Yeah, that's amazing. Cause I know who you're talking about. And you have 5 killers now in the real estate industry, all winning awards, all crushing it. And I would venture to say that if you said, hey guys, we're gonna get the band back together, I think they would probably join.
Yeah, I feel the same way about them. We're still family.
Yeah.
We're still what we call iron gators.
Yep,
Like,
yep. Iron Gate team. That's amazing. So, all right. So now you went from, single solo agent to team to, mega team. Then you had a pretty big shift right after that. Talk to us about that.
so I am big on numbers and tracking and following P&L. And I led my business through the P&L at the end of the year. And I wouldn't even wait till the end of the year. Come November, I'd already be tracking. And I realized that in my opinion, the MEREA model is not a profitable one. So, I would make $1 million in commission, and it is expensive to run a team and marketing and support staff and office and travel and, broker splits. I remember only taking home like 300 grand a year from making $1 million. But at that point, I was working with so many people, and I noticed that the people that were making the most money were the investors I was working with, and I would help them find the deal. They would rehab it. I would sell it back for them. I would look at the P&L on the closing statement, and I would look at my commission, and yes, it was good. But then I would look at what they're making, and I was like, all right, this is like 10 times what I'm making. So I think I'm on the wrong side of this. But I was flipping houses out of the gate. My first year in real estate, I turned $20,000. I borrowed against my credit card into $120,000. The next year, I focused on my team, and I realized that, my cash flow was good, but my net worth didn't grow. So then I started, after the second year, compounding and create a plan. And my plan was to flip 4 houses a year and make 10% on every house. And I would compound my money at 40%. And once I got purposeful with that, I realized that I was compounding at way more than 40% a year. Because I was in real estate, I found the deals. I was talking to so many sellers and so many buyers that it was easy for me to just match up buyers and sellers and be a matchmaker and wholesale properties. And I also took a class on wholesaling, and I realized that it's a higher dollar producing activity than being a realtor. And I remember, back then the average price was lower. It was probably 325 was the average house in Orlando. So, you're talking like an $8,000 commission versus a $15,000 assignment fee. And the wholesaling was 2 weeks, cash deal, no inspection period, no appraisal contingency, high escrow. I would say and a 95, 98% close rate. So it was much faster money. So I had the business with my 5 agents selling 120 houses a year on autopilot. And then I built another division, which was wholesaling, because now I know I can find the best deals, take them down for myself, which will allow me to compound and hit my 40% goals. But then also all the excess deals, I can call investors in my database and let them win too. And I remember that first year having the wholesaling company, I looked at the P&L and I ended up making, I believe the first year was like $670,000 off of just assigning contracts. And it was so much easier. And it was actually a smaller team that ran that. It was just 3 people and an admin, 3 cold callers and an admin, and it was hella profitable. And then my flips, because I kept finding the best deals, were hella profitable. So at the end of 2020, I said, hey, if I flip 2 houses a year and I make $40,000 a flip, which was what the average we were making, that's $80,000 a month. And all I got to do is 24 flips a year and I can make $1 million. I can work far less than I'm working right now and make far more. So I ended up meeting with the whole team and I said, hey guys, congratulations. You all got a raise. Take all my business, take all my leads. It's all yours. I'm going to transition fully to being an investor. And then my income went straight to $200,000 a month once I made that decision.
Wow. So it's all about taking a leap of faith.
Yeah, but I already kind of had the track record of success. And all I did was focus on the numbers and the P&L. And I said, hey, if I can pour more gas on this, it makes a lot more sense. And now I'm fully in the investor box now. I just work with referrals just so that I can still be, have a relative idea of what's going on out there. But the transition has been completely different.
So the moral of the story is you focus on what mattered.
I focused on the bottom line,
Yep.
and then the bottom line gave me more time.
Yep. So in the nature of this episode, how to attract customers, how did you, I know cold calling, but for your real estate team starting out, where did you find those leads? Where did you find those cold calls? Where did you give us that juice?
Sure. So you talk about the listings that
Yeah.
for sale by
Yep.
owners. Yeah. So there was a company called Vulcan 7. And basically that was what I used for all the years. That was the first company that I used when I first started cold calling, just straight out the gate in 2015. It was the one that the mentor that I learned from was using at that time. So it worked for me. And I like to stick with works. I don't experiment too much outside the box, even though I have, done Zillow and Realtor. And, I would take a small sprinkle of whatever little extra money I had and I would try things out. But in the end, cold calling was still the best.
It was the most profitable. Yeah. Because so here's what, my epiphany or my shift in my business was I realized when I'm trying to buy leads, I'm leaving my business in the hands of the person who's pressing submit on that contact form. When I am picking up the phone and calling somebody, I am actually taking control and I can control how many people I am talking to on a daily basis. And I think individuals who look at their business that way have a much higher success rate because they understand they control their success.
Yep.
There's no other excuses. There's no, oh, Zillow's giving me bad leads. Guess what? I was spending thousands of dollars on Zillow leads. And a lot of them were crap, but because I controlled how many times I pick up the phone and called those leads is why I was successful. And a lot of people don't realize that. And even right now, I run one of the top marketing agencies in the country. And my biggest issue with people is, oh, I called my lead twice and it doesn't work. How many times were you calling your leads in your team and in wholesale? Like, what did that look like?
So I again track. So it was 6 times was the average follow-up before it led to a contract. And also for every 6 people I added to my database, I would only close one of the 6. So it was a 1 to 6 and a 1 to 6 on both.
And people don't realize, when you're lead generating, where you're trying to get more customers, where you're trying to get more business, you don't realize that you know, you call up once, maybe they're in the car line. You call up again, maybe they're on the toilet. You call again, maybe they're at Publix or a grocery store. You call again, they're arguing with their spouse.
Yeah.
But 1 out of 6, there's probably a good chance
Yeah.
they're able to have that conversation with you.
Yeah. And it's timing too, you
Yeah.
know, and following up for years. My longest standing customer was 8 years. And this guy would come in every year from Canada, and he would only come during the holidays, Christmas. And I would spend every Christmas weekend showing this guy houses, and he would always call me and promise he was going to buy this time. And every single time he ended up not buying. And I ended up referring him out to Ernani, one of our team members, and he ended up closing him.
Ernani's an assassin. I know Ernani.
Yeah.
He's an assassin. Like, I've referred him so much business, and he just kills it. I love it.
Yeah. He's relentless.
He is.
Yeah. He'll follow up more than anyone I know.
And he'll drive. I'll never forget, he closed my best friend in middle school and high school, Mackenzie. He closed her, and she lived over in the Space Coast, which is like 60, 70 miles away. He was driving over there daily to show her properties that were under 200,000.
Yeah, he's a soldier. Yeah.
He if you're watching this or not, you're amazing.
He is.
So, but yeah, so the relentless follow-up, I think, is a big key takeaway that people need to understand. Is one is grit, the other is follow-up. The third is, you know, knowing your numbers. You know, you just followed the numbers, and the numbers led you to success. But now you took it even a step further, and now you're wholesaling businesses.
Yeah, so we did wholesale some businesses, but right now we're focusing on value add commercial real estate, strip centers and retail. And the reason we're doing that is because my network now and all the people I'm surrounding myself with, that's what they're doing. And I see the success they're having with that. So I'm following the footsteps of some other giants right now.
Wow.
Because I have people that are like me, but 10, 20 years more advanced, that have a lot more capital than I do, that I can basically partner or assign contracts to them for, you know, multi-million-dollar deals between $3 to $15 million.
Nice. So what would you say if I want to get started in wholesale, where can I find these leads for wholesale and things like that?
So I would say batch leads is probably the easiest one.
Is that like a website?
Yeah, it's a website.
Okay.
And basically it has beautiful data that's very digestible, very easy to follow. And, you know, you focus on distress when it comes to wholesaling, and you're looking for divorce, you're looking for death, and you're looking for foreclosures or people that are missing payments, pre-foreclosure. So you're looking for any sort of distress, anything that will cause someone to sell their house. You pull those lists, and then you basically cold call them. Or you do high equity, which means they've lived there for a long time, and the chance of you getting a good deal is much higher.
So was there a difference in, like, because you were cold calling real estate expired for sale by owners, but now you're cold calling wholesale. Did you have to make more calls to make wholesaling more successful? Like, was there more calls to be had there? Or?
Yeah, because you're calling people that don't have their house on the market. People that have their house on the market have higher motivation, or an expired or for sale by owner has way higher motivation than someone who, you know, is falls on a high equity list that you're just cold calling to see if you can get them to sell their house. Or if you're calling the eviction list, you know, there's a chance that they may be fed up, and you might catch them at that right moment that they may want to sell. But it's also a very cold call. But the good part is not as many people calling them, because when you're talking, you know, freshly expired listing, they'll probably receive 200 calls in a day, versus an eviction list where they might receive 3 calls in a week.
Yeah.
And now we're cold calling commercial property owners.
How's that?
And I would say almost no one's calling them.
So is it an easy conversation?
It's a very easy conversation if you speak the language. And commercial is very different, and people will sniff you out very quickly if you don't know the language or know the game or know the business. But as soon as you start speaking their language, and it's so much easier because commercial real estate is just full of investors. If you're an investor yourself and you know what to look for, you know, it's a very simple conversation. It's literally, I call them and I say, hey, are you looking to sell this property? And if it's yes or no, and if it's no, then I'll say, hey, I see that you own properties like this. We're calling other sellers just like you. Would you be interested in buying more real estate or investing in more real estate if we find a deal just like yours? The answer is typically yes. And then you add them to your database, and then you just play matchmaker and matchmake someone who owns, you know, a big retail strip center here, who's looking to buy another one, and you just connect people.
Boom. It's that easy. It's all about, you know, one big thing I was taught from a very young age is the deal maker is not the one who makes all the money. It's the one on either side of the deal. And knowing that, do you have any plans on being on either side of the deal instead of the deal maker in commercial right now?
Oh yeah. So the whole purpose of this company is for me to find the best deals possible
For you.
for myself. And
Nice.
my criteria is I either have to make $1 million on the deal or I have to make 10,000 a month in cash flow, which it sounds crazy, but it's actually a lot more easy than you think.
Yeah, one thing I've also realized being in this industry is there's so much money out there if you know how to find it.
Oh yeah.
And $1 million on a deal is not, to me, crazy. I mean, look at the space we're in today. This whole complex is probably, well, I know it cost them, I think it was just shy of $2 million to build, but it's valued at $6 million right now. There's so much equity to be had there. And I'm sure if you knock next door and said, "Hey, I'll give you 4.5 million," they'd take it and run, and you just turn around and flip it for another six.
Well, the beauty too is with especially with businesses, it's a lot of seller financing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't want to go pay $2 million for something and sell it for 6 million and then have to pay 40% in tax bracket for that. So they'll say, all right, well, give me my basis. I'm into it for, let's say, 3.5 million, $4.5 million. I'll seller finance you the rest and earn 8% interest on it. So it becomes a much easier game, I want to say, when you're at the top. And when you start surrounding yourself people that have a lot of money, you'll realize that big money is lazy because big money is traveling to Aspen and, going to Europe and spending time on their yacht. And they're not prospecting. They're not in the grind. They will happily pay someone like me who's in the grind, who spoon feeds them an amazing deal.
Yep, yep, yep. And it's funny you say big money's lazy. I know so many big money people that I'm like, yep, they're pretty lazy.
Yep.
But hey, rightfully so, right? They've worked
Yep.
their ass off. They've made their money.
Mhm.
So 3 tips. What are your 3 biggest tips on, one, as a new agent, what would be the biggest tip in 2025? 2, what would be the biggest tip if they're wanting to start a team? And 3, I want to get into wholesaling. What's your biggest tip? So, new agent.
So the biggest tip, hands down, is to go find someone who's doing exactly what you want to do at the highest level possible. Interview 3 or 4 of those type of people. For example, if you want to be a luxury agent, go interview. You can pull, the beauty of today's day and age is you have data. We didn't have as much data as we do now. You can pull the MLS, you can ask ChatGPT and say, hey, who is the top ranking commercial real estate agents in my area, luxury real estate agents? Who's working with the most investors in my area? Who is the one that's helping veterans? So whatever your niche is or whatever your calling is, whatever you feel that you want to specialize in, I would say specializing in something is going to help you create a niche, and the niche will obviously make you rich over time. So go find someone who is doing exactly what you want to do, interview 3 of them, and go offer value to them. Don't just come in there and say, can I take you out for coffee? There's a lot of people calling them and asking them to take you out to coffee. So call them and figure out what they like, do some homework on them, know exactly who you're calling, call them, praise them, and say, hey, can I come in and check out your organization? Here's my story. Here's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to one day be like you. Can you help me? And you'll be surprised how many people are willing to give a hand to someone new.
Yeah, and that's really, a lot of people, I see this in the groups actually a lot lately, is people like, "Hey, I'm looking at wanting to hire a mentor, but they want to take 50% of my commission. They want to take 60% of my commission." Like, do you not realize what the amount of money or the amount of knowledge you're going to earn
Oh, yeah.
is outstanding, and it's an easy button. Everybody wants an easy button in today's world.
That's the easy button. Model success. Do not try to reinvent the wheel. Do not think that you have some strategy better than someone else. Go out there with someone who's closing 10, 15 deals a month and just do exactly what they're doing, because guess what? It works.
Yeah, because again, we're talking about how to attract customers,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of people think, oh, in real estate, it's so hard, it's so difficult. Why? Because the 10% of agents that actually succeed are willing to do what the other 90% of agents are not willing to do. That's why the 10% are so successful, If you're willing to do what that 10% is doing that are successful, you will be successful. But what's really hard for people, especially getting in this industry, I feel like, is getting around the mindset of, hey, I have to start at the bottom. Hey, I have to start from somebody teaching me. Hey, I may not be profitable in the beginning, but if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Yep.
So, so starting out a new team, what should I look for? Number one tip on starting a team.
You know, again, join a team, join a big team, the biggest, baddest team. You know, I can name a couple in our area that are selling thousands of houses a year. Start there, go work from them, start from the bottom, see what their infrastructure is like. And I could say you could probably have more success on a team or being a team within a team. Going back at it now, I would have started on a large team, a much bigger team than I started on. And then go out there, make your money, and slowly invest your money in yourself over time. So, but the first hire is the most important, and that's what's going to make or break you completely. The first person I hired, if I had hired someone 10 times more talented, I would have been 10 times more successful.
Yep. And I also think so looking at it from both sides as a team owner and somebody looking at joining a team. As a team owner, if you are like, I want my agents to stay 100% of the time, I don't ever want them to leave me, don't start a team.
No.
You're going to be largely disappointed. It's going to be a total mindset screw up. But then if I'm also an agent looking to join a team and that team that I'm looking at joining doesn't have a succession plan, I should probably be looking at a different team, because I realize now that a lot of people that start teams think, oh, I could just go buy leads on Zillow, give them to the team leaders, and that's it. That's not really, to me, if I'm looking to really grow a real business, I need to see what is my succession plan on that team. And guess what? I I always had the knowledge, the thought process that as a team owner, this person's probably going to leave me, but it's my job to show them enough value to get them to want to stay.
Yeah. You know, I'll say my biggest tip for that is when you're interviewing that team leader to join that team, do not work for someone that's closing 2 transactions a month or less. They don't have enough leads for you. So I would say, like, if they're not closing at least 50 transactions a year, they shouldn't even have a team, because they don't even have enough business for themselves. One single agent can handle 4 to 6 closings a month. So again, if they're not doing that, they don't deserve you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then wholesaling. I want to get into wholesaling. What's your biggest tip?
Same exact thing. Go find a wholesaler in your local market who is killing it, who's doing really well. But I could say this right now, wholesaling is dying off really fast because it's becoming such a huge buyer's market. There's so much inventory right now, and a lot of wholesalers are suffering. So I wouldn't say to start in wholesaling today, because the amount of activity you're going to have to take to be successful is going to be really, really great. Unless you can find someone who has like a Google ad website that's really working, like, your home sold or I'll buy it, or, instant cash offer, someone who's really ranking and has huge online presence, where you can come in and just take phone calls and take warm leads, and they have enough warm leads for you. I would do that versus trying to actively starting a wholesaling company right now.
Gotcha.
You're probably going to starve.
Yeah, that's yeah. So books, mentors. Who are your mentors?
They change over time, and it's whatever my goals are. Right now, I follow a guy named Scott Shields. He's got a group called Commercial Academy, and it's a group of the highest level players I've ever been in my entire life.
Really?
I would say that it's a very advanced group. It's over $36,000 a year to be in the group, so it's not a beginner group. But the average person in there is probably over 2 million, 3 million net worth, all the way up to 4 or 500 million net worth. So sometimes these big rooms that you have to pay big money to be in can vastly impact your life. But learning the basics, how to manage your wealth yourself,
Yep.
could be one of the best things you could do. Like The Richest Man in Babylon is a great book, and I recommend that one to everyone. The Compound Effect is also a really, really good book. But I have a lot of friends who are agents and who are selling 50 houses a year, they don't really have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
I know agents who have been selling real estate for 30 years, who've been a top agent at their office for 20, 30 years, and they're, their net worth is very low. You're probably, if you're a successful agent, you'll make 250,000
Yep.
to 400,000 a year. But if you're spending 30,000 a month on expenses, then what are you really left with? So making sure that you are practicing what you preach. And if you're selling an investor a rental property, why the hell are you not buying a rental property yourself?
Yeah.
Why don't you own 1 or 2 rental properties a year and you grow that over 20 years and see what that looks like?
And that's something you ingrained in me a lot over the years. You're like, I'll never forget, what was it? 6 weeks ago, I bought my dream car, the Corvette.
Yeah.
And I remember calling you and telling you about it. And you're like, but bro, when are you going to buy a house? When are you buy a house? I was like, well, I'm actually closing on one in 2 weeks. Well,
Congratulations on that. Finally.
finally.
Yes.
But so now I have my little portfolio. I've 3 rentals now. And it's kind of, it's inspiring to see that money just working.
Yeah.
And as an agent, like the deal I'm doing right now, or the deal I just did literally Thursday closed on, it was an Ashton Woods home. They're paying 3% commission, $15,000 buyer bonus, and covering closing costs. So as an agent, when I went in there to buy my home, I bought a $525,000 home, 0 cash out of pocket.
Yeah.
Literally, and they cut me a check for $13,000 at closing.
See, now you're a smart investor. Is exactly how the game is played.
And it was a 4.9% interest rate.
Wow.
So when my wife was like, but honey, that's a $500,000 home. I was like, I'm borrowing $500,000 for under what banks are lending right now.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah. Studying the numbers, and it doesn't matter if you buy a $500,000 house, $200,000 house, or $5 million property. If the numbers work and you can cash flow on it, or at least break even with a little bit of cash flow, over time, the cash flow is going to go up. The property value is going to go up. And that's what the power of long-term real estate ownership is. If you ask your dad, hey, do you have any regrets in life? Probably one of the ones he would say is, I would have bought more real estate. If you ask his dad, he would have said the same thing. If you asked his dad, he would have said the same thing.
Yeah, it's funny because me and my dad have been talking a lot lately about investing, and he has a house right now, lakefront, 600, probably like 675. And he's looking at buying another house in the Villages, and he's like, yeah, but I need to sell this house first because I have it paid off.
Yeah.
And gonna go buy another house. I was like, no, we're gonna do a HELOC.
Yeah.
On this house, pull all that cash out.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of that cash, go buy a house in the Villages, then put the rest of that cash in a fund until you decide where another investment you want. He's like, but that's just so much. I'm like, no, that's how you build more wealth.
Yeah.
Even, he's 74. You can still build wealth very rapidly.
Oh yeah. You got to protect cash flow and not be negative. So if you can figure out a way not to be negative, which your numbers will tell you that before you even buy it, you'll be in good shape. But I 100% agree with you. I have this conversation with my mom all the time, and she wants to go buy a house in Winter Garden or Claremont and spend $500,000. And I said, hey, why don't you just take the $500,000, use that as a 20% down payment on a $2.5 million asset, and that same $500,000 house is going to appreciate at 3% a year versus a $2.5 million asset that's going to appreciate at 3% a year. Which one would you rather have in 10 years? A $500,000 house that's worth 650, or would you rather have a $2.5 million property that's now worth 3.25? You made 750,000 versus 150,000. Plus the tax benefits that comes with a larger asset, plus principal pay down on a larger asset.
But hey, scared money doesn't make any money, and that's where a lot of people are right now. Is they're scared, and I feel like everybody says the economy's down, which I get it, but here's what I believe in is that money moves. And if it's not here right now in our economy, it's somewhere else. Where is that money? You have to go find the cheese. There's a book, I think, out there that's like, how go find my cheese or something like that. So
Who stole my cheese?
Who stole my cheese? Yeah. And that's where, I feel like people don't realize that, yes, the economy's down. The money's just moved somewhere else. Where's it moving to?
Yeah.
Where's that attention gone?
Yeah.
And I feel like right now is the biggest opportunity for buyers, especially if you're buying new construction, because of those incentives. Especially if you're a real estate agent and you're not buying new construction right now with all the incentives that are going on, literally no cash out of pocket. I mean, you're failing. You're failing. So,
well, I think right now, like, interest rate is 7-8%, right? On commercial properties, there is distress out there in the commercial world, especially with offices and all these people that bought all these apartment complexes at 2 to 3% interest rate that now have to refinance out within 5 years at a 7% interest rate. Rents didn't go up; they're going down slightly right
Yeah.
now. Insurances have went up and taxes have went up. So if they can't hold on to these assets, they're going to end up giving it back to the bank. So a bad economy is actually the best time to find deals, not a good economy. So everyone else right now is running scared. I'm running into the ocean, and I'm going to walk right through those waves. And let's say 2 to 3 years from now, interest rates go from 7% back down to 4.5%. Do you have
Pricey.
any idea how much value is going to be created?
Oh,
On that, how much cash flow is going to be created if I'm buying it at a walk-in 8% return today, and then now interest rates are 4.5%. Plus, I've improved the property over time. Now is the time where serious wealth is going to get made.
yep.
So don't be scared. Jump
Absolutely.
in now. It's always a good time to buy.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, Mohammed, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate having you. Any last thoughts, tips, tricks, anything you want to share?
I would say consistent habits, change your habits, change your life, and model success. Don't reinvent the wheel. And I think that's literally the formula you're going to need, period.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today, man. I appreciate you. Stay tuned for our next episode.